So, like I said, it a lot of it comes to preparation. Prepare for the expected and the unexpected. We know they're going to ask these common interview questions. Start preparing your answers. Don't think that you're going to wing it. Or some people say, well, once I get in the interview, I'll know what to say. Guess what? You're not. You kind of just, people tend to have tendencies that are giveaways that they're nervous or they're trying to figure it out and kind of wing it on the spot. And a good teller is if people are looking up and down or to the side, like, yeah, so that's that's usually a telling sign. So instead, prepare for those answers. And look on Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a really great resource to look up, interview questions either for that company or for that specific role. You can Google, common interview questions for data analysts and pull up those questions. Do you know what you want to say, how to say it? And, what is a good achievement? And some of you might say, well, I don't have much achievement, Claudia. I'm barely graduating from college. Well, what are some projects that you've worked on? Based on the networking you've done, what is one thing that keeps coming up over and over again? Is it those soft skills? Is it that business acumen? Is it that special programming language that you know? Maybe you did a project on it. So if they were to ask you, tell me like how well do you deal with rejection? In case that you do want to go into that sales or marketing role or, consulting. Well, if we already found in our research, they're gonna ask us that question. Let's start preparing for it. You know, how do I deal with rejection? What is the question behind the question? So most people think that when they ask you, tell me about your weakness, you should lie about it and say something like a positive thing and make it look negative, but it's really positive. An example of that is, oh, one of my weaknesses is that I'm such a hard worker. So I tend to work a lot and I, you know, tend to say yes all the time and I have trouble saying no. That's not a really weakness. What they're really asking you with that question is, one, are you self-aware of your, imperfections or maybe skill sets you're not that good at? Two, are you willing to be vulnerable and be able to, discuss that with somebody else and share that? And three, what do you do when you do have a weakness? Do you just say, well, I'm just bad at public speaking. That's just it's just the way that I was made. That's how I was born. There's nothing much I can do about it. Or are you that person that says, hey, I'm not the best at public speaking, especially when I don't know those people. Usually I'm comfortable with like a one-on-one if I once I get to know them. But once it becomes 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 or plus and I don't know people, I get nervous. My palms get sweaty. I, get hot flashes and I get jittery and I tend to stumble. And I just a lot of things happen when I have to do any public speaking. So what I'm trying to do is get better. So I just joined Toastmasters group and currently, working through that. I know it's going to take some time. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I know it's a matter of time of when I'll get there. That comes out genuine because it is true. I have a client where she said, my biggest weakness is that I tend to be quiet. I am an introvert. So I will not be the loudest person in the room. I do have a lot of value to add, and I do need to work around getting better around, speaking up, especially when I know I have great ideas. And it's funny because my husband is an extrovert. So what I'm doing is trying to, make sure I hang around with more of his friends. And I try to make it a goal of speaking up a little bit more than I usually would. And that's how I'm trying to get better at it. But like that's again, these answers come out genuine and then there's a story behind it because it is true. And we're saying, hey, we're not perfect. And don't say like, yeah, I'm a bad public speaker. So I've been taking workshops and I public speak in front of like 1,000 people, but I consider that to be my weakness. It's like, okay, sure. So clearly you are not good at being self-aware. You are not coachable. You seem to or want people to think you're perfect. So you would never tell people when you need help or need assistance. And you're not going to do anything about it. So, maybe you're not a good employee for me to hire. I don't need a know-it-all. I don't need a, hey, I'm perfect, but this is my first entry level job. Nobody wants to hire that. Be genuine. Now, if your weakness is project management and you're applying for a project manager role, that's probably not a good weakness. And I would even say, like, maybe you should look into another role if that's currently one of your biggest weaknesses.